Hey everybody, DreamRoom64 here, and today we're in my messy office. And the reason that my office is messy is because I like playing around with old electronics, things that are very different from the electronics of today, which I'll explain a bit more about why I feel that way at the end of the video. But these old electronics, they're abundant, at least in America. You can go around, you can find this stuff for dirt cheap, and basically nobody really wants or cares about a lot of it. And a lot of it is forgotten. It's just continuing to age, and right now a lot of it you can pick up and it's still working fine, or with minimal intervention it's working fine. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So in today's video I'm going to talk about some of these electronics that have been keeping me busy, keeping this room messy, and just things I've been having fun with. So if you have an interest in physical media, gaming, plasma TVs, stay tuned. All right, so let's talk about first this guy right here. So right here, you see right here is a monster of an audio video receiver. This is a Pioneer Elite VSX 92 TXH, which the original owner here wrote mine on it. So I found this thing at an estate sale for $50. And it's just one of those things where I always kind of wanted one, and I finally got one. Now, unfortunately, I do not recommend going out and grabbing one because there's all kinds of problems with these. This one in particular freezes up. Now, I think I can solve it with some effort, but for now, I'm waiting for a response to a forum post that I made. I have already gotten some help with a firmware update, which is kind of funny because for a lot of old devices, the firmware can be lost unless somebody archived it. In the case of this unit here, somebody did archive it. And you can see how there's no networking ports on the back of it. There's no Wi-Fi antennas. There's no USB ports, nothing like that. That's because it's a model from 2007, or manufactured December 2007. So it was like this transitional period where you had lots of analog inputs, and you had still HDMI at 1080p. Well, yeah, you didn't have that on this model here. So the funny thing is, this one receives a firmware update via the optical input. You burn a WAV file to a CD, connect it over a CD player or a DVD player with optical out, and then the player recognizes, oh, a firmware update via audio is playing, and it receives that. So just kind of a fun fact. But another fun fact, this thing is 37.5 pounds. So let me flip it around, and I'll show you the front. Just one more reason why I think this is so cool. So yeah, I don't recommend, sorry, it's heavy. I don't recommend going out and grabbing one of these particular models because it is problematic. Okay. And, but what is neat about it, since I got it for such a good deal and I have that willingness to try to restore it and fix it up, I do think it's, at least for me, it's worth owning. And hopefully I can put it to use someday, find a good use case. But you look at this thing, you need a big space to set this thing down. Metal and volume knobs, it has this beautiful finish on the metal faceplate, solid metal faceplate. And it's some kind of Japanese type finish. I'll put the word on the screen, I believe it is from what I read. And it's just a stunning unit. So this kind of thing is just something you don't really get today, right? Yes, there are still high-end audio video receivers out there, but they don't have all those analog ports on the back. They're not quite built like this guy. This thing is built different. And just to show you what the original retail on this was. So like I said, I got it in the estate sale. The original owner had left the paperwork, so I can see exactly how he got inspired to buy it. So now at this page, let me flip this over and I'll show you what inspired him to buy it, it seems. So he got this thing in the mail, and it says $1,300 here, now on sale for $800. Save $500. So he wrote mine in Sharpie on there, and he bought it. And then this little mailer from a old electronics store. It's kind of cool because it has a DLP rear projection TV shown there. It has old LCDs, but most importantly, it has plasma shown here. So you can see the Pioneer Kuro there, 9th gen model, $6,000 for a 60-inch, or $5,000 before savings for a 50-inch. So it's kind of a cool throwback to the old plasma TV pricing of the late 2000s, which by that time it was actually coming down a lot. But those Pioneers were premium priced, and this receiver was not a cheap one, very good one. So I was excited to find it, and it's just one of those things that it'll keep me busy. It's kind of a project. All right, now something that was also a project is over here. This is a Sony carousel CD player. So I found it at a thrift shop, marked $11. The tray was kind of hanging out a bit, and it was jammed. But I plugged it in, and I saw that it was turning on fine. I could tell it wanted to work, and it looked like it just had a mechanical issue. So usually I'd look at a carousel player and I say, whatever, I don't want that. This one though, it's a Sony ES. So you see that ES badge there. It's a Sony elevated standard. Now, basically it just means it has a little bit more robust build quality, probably some better components, has a metal faceplate. It also even has a volume adjustment knob here for the headphone jack, and a variable volume on the back. It has RCA jacks on the back with variable volume out. And one of the higher end features of this unit is, let me turn it on. So first of all, I really love how quickly these turn on and are ready to go. So I'm just gonna hit play just to demonstrate how quickly it starts. Even though it's a carousel player, it gets right to business. When I take and it's already on the first 2 seconds of the song, it's playing. One of the cool things about this is this line out on the remote. So if I use this, I'll try to maybe grab some better footage out if this doesn't turn out good, but see how the volume knob is moving? I just think that's neat. So you can single press the button, it instantly responds, and I just think that's pretty cool. So yeah, it has an old digital analog converter, and this thing's from 1993, but it still sounds good to me. And I am currently experimenting with a modern DAX. This is a Topping ES32 Lite. So I'm experimenting, but I do have to admit the DAC built into this CD player, even though it's over 30 years old, still sounds good. So aside from just having to fix a little mechanical jam up, where the funny thing was it was jammed up with a CD. So the original owner, pretty classy guy probably, I was listening to some classical music and a CD jammed up inside of it, and it was really easy fix for me. So this thing's awesome for $11. The only other thing I had to do to keep it alive was I took it apart just to inspect it. This was originally sticky, like it was degraded rubber. There was a degraded rubber coating on it, so I had to pull that off and wipe it down and solve that problem a little bit. Now, like I was saying, this turns on instantly and it's super responsive. So let's say I want to jump to the 5th disc slot here and load a disc into that slot. Watch this. If I tap the disc skip button 4 times really quickly, it gets to the right spot. It skips 4 ahead. It does kind of like a dance where it's like, oh, wait, oh, I gotta go backwards. Maybe that's a little more efficient to move backwards. I don't know. It always gets to the right spot, no matter how quickly I press that button. Single press, double press. I think that's pretty cool. And again, it's just fast. It's responsive. That's one of the reasons I like using a standalone CD player for listening to CDs. Yes, you can use a DVD player. Yes, you can use a Blu-ray player, game console. But these old Sony standalone players, and they don't have to be the ES line. All the ones I've ever tried are very quick. So like same thing with fast forward. If you press fast forward, it's going through that track really quickly, and you can even hear it while it's fast forwarding if you have speakers or headphones connected. Skips tracks, just responds. It never misses a single button input. So that's why I think these are cool. Robust build quality, metal faceplate, perfect reliability except for that mechanical jam up from a physical CD jammed in there. And it's just fun to take 5 different CDs and load them into the carousel player and listen to them. So I think that carousel CD players are a little bit overlooked. They're quite a lot of fun. So that's my opinion on those. Single disc players are great too, but I think people are kind of sleeping on these 5 disc changers. All right, now moving on, some more physical media players. We're in this era of abundance of physical media players. I see dozens of these at thrift shops, all kinds of different models, all dirt cheap. I've even seen them at the Goodwill outlets where you pay by the pound. I got one player for $3 roughly, based on it being lightweight. So let me show you these. We'll start off with this one here. Now this one here, a little more interesting than the others. This is an HD DVD player. So the reason I thought that was fun to have is mainly to put it on display. And why would I put this just on display and not really use it? Well, as a DVD player, it's extremely slow to turn on. It's embarrassing. And as an HD DVD player, well, HD DVD isn't really a format that I recommend anybody collect to a large extent because they're very unreliable. So sometimes the packaging for HD DVDs is very cool. Like I have the Matrix here, and it just looks really cool in this box set with the hologram. And I think the red cases of HD DVD look nice. So there's some shelf appeal to these things as far as a collectible, but they just freeze up. They rotted basically. There was a manufacturing defect that affected so many of these, and they'll look perfect. You won't even know they're rotted until you're in the middle of watching the movie and it just stops. So this one here, this movie Breach, I was watching this, and this disc here is interesting. It's double-sided, so you have a DVD side and then you have an HD DVD layer side to the disc. So you want to watch the HD DVD, and yeah, I was watching it and it froze up in the middle of the movie. I couldn't continue to watch. Flip it over, I continue watching the movie. On the DVD side, I had to switch to standard definition. Worked perfectly. So it's really a shame that this format was so faulty. But what isn't a shame is that in the end Blu-ray won, because I sure am glad that Blu-ray won, because you can see I quite enjoy collecting Blu-rays. And with Blu-rays, it's a perfectly reliable format, as long as the disc wasn't abused. I've had very good luck with Blu-ray. Now, on the contrary, 4K Blu-ray, just kind of just a random tangent. Space Jam, for example. I'm watching this. I got this secondhand. I'm in the middle of the movie. Same kind of thing happens to me. And I have a good player, by the way. I have a nice Panasonic player. The movie freezes. I try again, reboot it, make sure there's no damage to the disc or lint on it or anything. It just, I don't know why, it doesn't work. So I have to switch to the regular Blu-ray, which works perfectly fine. And I find that a well-mastered Blu-ray looks perfectly good to me. I don't really find that much benefit to 4K, especially when the movie wasn't really originally made with HDR in mind. So I'm not a huge 4K Blu-ray guy. I'm pretty happy with regular Blu-ray. Upscaled on a 4K TV, or just especially played on a plasma TV. I love watching those on plasma, which I'll go back to plasmas. We have a couple plasmas to briefly talk about in this video. All right, so back on the subject of these, the players down here. I've been picking these up and just playing around with different Blu-ray players. So I showed this one off in a previous video. I'm using this in my basement plasma setup. And this is a 2011 Panasonic model. I like the styling on this. They were changing the styling of their Blu-ray players and capabilities every single year back then, in the heyday of Blu-ray. And the 2011 one here works out very well. It supports 3D. They're cheap and pretty common. This one here, I think, is from, this is a late Blu-ray player, so from 2015. Boots up very quickly. It has that curved aesthetic, because that's when, it's around that time that Samsung was pushing curved TVs that nobody really asked for. But this one here, I've seen different ones that don't say 3D on the top. You can see it says 3D on there. This one supports 3D. I like this one. It's pretty good. Not currently using it, but I like having it. It only cost me a few dollars. Here's the first ever consumer Ultra HD Blu-ray player. And this one's kind of neat because it has dual HDMI output. So this was, since it was an early 4K Blu-ray player, you could connect this to your 4K TV with HDR here, and then you could output to your older audio video receiver through the second HDMI output. And that's actually why I bought this one here complete in the box. I ended up buying this guy here on eBay. This is the flagship 2011 Blu-ray player from Panasonic. So maybe I'll talk about that in the future. I think it needs to be discussed right now. That's brand new, and it was very inexpensive for what it is. And this model here supports some funny things like Skype. You could plug a camera in to it and make a Skype call. But like the 4K player here, it has twin HDMI outputs, so I can run 3D to my TV, my plasma, and then run the other HDMI out into an older audio video receiver over here that doesn't actually support 3D because it's 1 year too old. It was just 1 year before 3D was really a thing or featured readily on players. Okay, so with that said, I mean, this thing's cool. The CD player, I think they're really underappreciated. It was an easy fix. There's tons of these Blu-ray players out there for a few bucks, still going strong. Let's take a look over here at what I consider to be a very interesting speaker. So you can see it says extended definition on there. Some pretty cool branding. This is a Sony speaker. I found these at a flea market for 15 bucks. And it just stood out to me when I picked it up. I'm like, whoa, that thing is heavy. So while the base is cheap plastic, which you can see this one's broken here, the speaker itself is so super hefty. It's built like a tank. I'm pretty sure this is an aluminum enclosure. And this is kind of a forgotten piece of tech. I can't really find much information about it online. What I can find though is that it's from roughly the year 2000 or 2001, and it really looks like it. It has that Y2K aesthetic all the way. It looks like the shining example of Y2K. With that silver and the bulbous look to it, kind of futuristic. But anyway, one of the fun things about this is this tweeter here. Look at that tweeter on such a small little bookshelf speaker, not even a bookshelf speaker, small little like satellite speaker. Even two mid-range drivers. Yeah, they're paper cone, but it's really unusual to see that. So anyway, the extended definition branding that you see here, this was Sony's push for, as part of Sony's push for Super Audio CD. So in the early 2000s, they were trying to market Super Audio CD, and they put out some of these speakers, from what I read, called extended definition. And this model here, the tweeter supports up to 70,000 hertz, 70 kilohertz. Like that, as far as I understand, that's more than a dog can even hear. So it really doesn't make any sense to have a speaker that goes up to that spec. But it's interesting. So I'm not going to use these as a full 5-channel setup. I did get all 5. And it originally, from what I researched, came with a subwoofer, a Sony subwoofer bundled. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this one here, and these are just here for display for the video. But I'm going to keep this one here, I think, and then I'm going to keep one over here. And then with my chair, which I move around, I'm going to use this as basically, I'm going to use them as surround speakers for this little plasma TV setup that's in progress. And before I move on to talk maybe about the plasma TVs, let me just point out one more fun fact about these speakers. So this right here is the same speaker as the other one, it's just rotated. And what also rotates about the speaker is the badge. So if you guys remember the PlayStation 2, the original fat model PS2 from the year 2000 when it launched, it had the Sony, or not the Sony badge rotate on it, but the PlayStation logo. You could rotate it because the PS2 was designed to be positioned both horizontally and vertically, just like these speakers. I thought that was kind of neat. So I wonder if some of the same Sony designers in the year 2000 or probably 1999 or 8, when these were under development, worked on that. So yeah, nice machined logo on the grills. I think the speaker looks a lot cooler without the grill, but just thought that was a neat touch, how these rotate to adapt and how that is just like the PlayStation 2. Okay, let's move on to plasmas really quickly. So I don't have them turned on, and this video isn't really focused specifically on plasmas. But this is one where I found it recently. I got this for free. This is a 2012 Panasonic P55 ST50. It's a 3D capable model, really good model, acceptable input lag, just a hair over 2 frames according to my measurement, and in game mode. And I really like it. All right. Now, one of the fun fact about this model is that it was recently proven by YouTuber Devil Jinx, or on Reddit he goes by Aromatic Attitude 34. He's a big plasma enthusiast, and he has confirmed that this particular model and the other 50 series 3D capable models are capable of 120 hertz for PC gaming. So he's confirmed that with an NVIDIA GPU as well as an AMD GPU. And I don't have time right now to dig into that, but that is something that I hope to cover in a future video. I'm going to experiment with that and see how that goes, because that is really exciting news. Now, how does it affect the longevity of these TVs? Because that's obviously going to be driving the panel a lot harder. We don't really know yet, but it is an exciting finding. All right, now another exciting finding is this guy right here, the Panasonic P55 VT60. So this is the smallest VT model released in the United States. And you can just see that the styling on this TV is something special. I mean, it's awesome. And I hope to maybe make a video about this down the line. I've only had it for a week. I haven't had a lot of time to use it. And you can see it's quite the design. It's slim. This one actually has 2 cooling fans on the back, despite being newer than this one. This is a 2013 model. I thought it was funny. This one does no cooling fans. This one, panel's driven a lot harder. It has a very dark filter. And yeah, it has 2 cooling fans on the back. Really unique stand design. It's only shared, as far as I know, with the VT60, and it just looks cool to me. So I got this for $100. So that's another thing I want to make a point of. You know, this old tech that I like, there's very little demand for it. There's way more supply, at least in America. It's so easy to get your hands on these awesome pieces of technology that, for the most part, still work really well, but maybe have some problems. Like, you know, I had to fiddle around with that a little bit. It's going to take a decent amount of work. But other things, just plug them in and they work fine. Like the plasma TVs generally work fine. I clean them up, take the dust out and all that. But most things like the Bluray Players and all that, they're working fine. All right. Now, one more thing I want to talk about in this video is how the tech that I like, this stuff that's, it's getting older, right? This is from 2013. The CD player I was talking about, that's from 1993, the 2007 audio video receiver. This stuff is getting older. Right now, it's for the most part working without much intervention, but there's other tech where it's already reached a point of obsolescence. So a good example of that is this guy right here, this Apple TV. Now, let me explain the reason why I have this. All right, I bought this on eBay, and the reason I bought it on eBay is because it's basically worthless. If I were to find it at a thrift shop, which I have in the past owned one that I got secondhand thrifted, but at a thrift shop, they'll probably charge what I paid on eBay. It was like $12 or $15, including the shipping. And the reason I picked this up is just because it looks cool, all right? So I just thought it looked cool. And it's, to me, this is a really neat piece of decor. So while some tech, including this, is obsolete, it at least can function as a cool thing on your shelf. So sometimes I do that with interesting older Apple products. So just check out the back of this thing. It's got all these ports. You'll never find an Apple product like this today with all these ports. And I just think it looks so sleek. And I polished it up a bit, because if you find these, they're usually, some of them are yellowed depending on the UV light exposure, like the yellow, like the logo turned kind of yellow, and they're pretty scratched up because this is like an acrylic top. So I taped the edges off and then I polished it with some plastic polish. And I thought it turned out pretty good. So yeah, not much use for it. Kind of like the HD DVD player. It's just sort of a collectible. But I did plug it in. It does work. It does turn on. It's just the connectivity features are long obsolete. There's really no reason to use it. Okay, another thing that is obsolete, but I still find it useful, are iPod minis. And the reason I actually picked this guy up here is because it has the belt clip accessory. So I already had way too many Apple iPod minis, but I found it with the belt clip for $10 at a flea market, and I thought, all right, cool. The belt clip alone goes for $15 on eBay. I didn't have one for some reason. So now I can walk around with the iPod clipped on. But yeah, these old iPods are pretty neat because they're serviceable. Now you might look at this and think, okay, that looks completely sealed. Well, let me explain something to you. They're actually not that hard to get into. So yeah, I'm gonna explain why I got the pencil here, okay? So basically, to get inside one of these things, some people, if you look it up, a lot of people are gonna pry this open, all right? Well, here's the trick. You take hot glue, put a little bit of hot glue on there, stick the pencil on, pull up, all right? Because then you have leverage at the back of the pencil, or you could probably use a chopstick, all right? And it has helped me get into all of those iPods over there. I took the batteries out of all of them because it's not a good idea to have batteries sitting in old tech because lithium-ion batteries, they generally expand, and then it's going to blow out the casing, could become a fire hazard. And I really want to preserve these. I really like this player. It's a fun one to use. Sound quality is good. Controls are excellent. Monochrome screen looks cool, and they seem to be holding up over 20 years later. And then on the bottom, it's the same procedure. You just what I found is hot glue a pencil on. Don't gush the glue into the port here, and don't use like ridiculously hot glue, but just like basic craft glue gun. Stick the pencil on, use the leverage, pull it off, and then you need one more basic tool to get a little bit further inside. I'll put the name of that tool. I forget the exact name. I'll put that on the screen to pull off some metal bits, and then the whole thing just slides off, and you can take the battery out. So it's a plug-in battery. It's not even soldered in. So okay, that kind of gets us to the last point I want to make in today's video. Old tech, stuff like this iPod, stuff like this audio video receiver here with unique characteristics like analog inputs, a beautiful vacuum fluorescent display. It's not turned on now, but it really looks cool when it's turned on. CD players, which just turn on instantly and work. They have one job, and they do that job beautifully. And things like old speakers, they continue to work. And plasma TVs, they have unique characteristics like beautiful colors, this natural ability to kind of produce anti-aliasing effect, and they just look great in motion. All right, this old tech has charming characteristics that newer tech doesn't always have. And newer tech, while it's amazing, like look at this tablet here. All right, you turn it on, it does everything you want. It's thin, it's sleek. You know what? This is going to be a piece of e-waste in a few years. There's nothing particularly special about it. I don't see myself putting this on display someday and admiring it, Like I do that with something like this phone here from the early 90s. Yeah, it's obsolete, but it's cool. It's got some charm, it's got character. It's something interesting. Same thing with the Apple TV. Show me a streaming box today that looks anything like this. Doesn't exist. Or a physical media player today that reminds you of a bygone era of a format war. We'll never have another format war, and it's just a different time. Because physical media, as far as just about everything, is almost dead. I think music's going to stick around. Lots of people love physical media for music, but for movies, there's still enough enthusiasts for 4K. But for games, it's going to be like collector's edition at some point. Everything will be digital key codes. So yeah, that's the point I want to make today. This old tech, it's very abundant. It's mostly worth keeping alive. It's all over the place. And if you have an interest in it, I suggest picking some stuff up now, playing with it, while generally still working and generally still widely available, at least in my country, the United States, where everybody loves to consume stuff, myself included. There is way too much of it, not enough people with an interest in it, and I think it's worth keeping alive. So anyway, let me know what kind of old tech do you guys like? What do you have good memories with? And I'll talk in the future about the plasma TVs, other cool stuff that I got going on with my setups. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned for more. All right, bye.